But there's also been some news just in, the last couple of weeks, of course, because we weren't on last week. And we have this news correspondent dude who comes on the show, and he's awesome. This guy is sweet. His name is Jason McClellan, and he is here to talk some UFO news with us. Jason, talk some news with us, baby.
Greetings, Alejandro, and hello, everyone. This is your Open Minds News Brief for Monday, January 2nd. Welcome to 2012. Well, let's start off with a story that would have come in handy had I known about this when I was in college. But a student at the National University of Tainan, a city in southern Taiwan, recently missed class for 2 hours. And while a student missing class isn't that strange, the excuse he offered is. The student filed an application with the school's administration to be excused from his December 15th absence. According to the China Post, the student listed on his application the reason for his absence as, quote, being snatched away by aliens, end quote. He alleged that he was, quote, held hostage and taken away by aliens from an unnamed planet, end quote. Surprisingly, the university approved the application the following day. Word spread quickly, drawing the attention of local media. And following the media inquiries, the student reportedly filed an amended application citing, quote, discomfort as the reason for his absence. This new application was approved by the school immediately, quote, in order to put the whole event aside as early as possible. The student has since stated that his original claim of an alien abduction was done simply for fun. But we don't know that for sure, Alejandro.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because it's kind of a funny story, and it's so weird that this guy would do this and they would accept it, as an excuse. And so, but he's kind of saying that he just made all this up. He doesn't believe he's abducted. Is that right? Right.
He said it was just something he made up. He was being silly and was surprised that the school actually approved it.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's kind of strange that he would offer this excuse so the school would approve it. That's even stranger.
Mm-hmm.
But then only after it drew a lot of attention from the media and he was getting questioned and bothered a lot, and to get everyone to leave him alone, that's when he filed this amended application. But so who knows? He could have just been fooling around, but somebody could have forced him to change his story too. Interesting. Well, here's some cool news. It's definitely cool to me. Tom DeLonge, certainly best known for his role as vocalist and guitar player in the pop-punk band Blink-182, was on Coast to Coast. The accomplished musician, who also plays in the band Angels and Airwaves, is a savvy entrepreneur as well. But in addition to being a musician and businessman, Tom DeLonge is a budding ufologist. DeLonge appeared on the popular radio program Coast to Coast AM on Sunday, December 18th. He discussed with host George Knapp his deep interest in UFOs and extraterrestrials, but explained that UFOs are much more than a casual interest to him. DeLonge explained that he actively researches UFOs and has done so for many years. He described himself as a, quote, armchair academic in the field of ufology, and told Knapp the story of how, in the mid-90s, when his band Blink-182 signed their first record deal, he took the very first check from the record company and bought a computer specifically to go on the internet to research UFOs. Knapp and DeLonge conversed for 3 of the show's 4 hours, and Knapp lauded DeLonge as a, quote, budding ufologist. While it was DeLonge's first appearance as a guest on the show, he explained to Knapp that he is a Coast to Coast AM subscriber and listens to the show frequently, and certainly all the way back to when the show was hosted by one of the show's founders, Art Bell. DeLonge was a terrific guest, in my opinion, answering questions intelligently, and he even provided listeners with a brief overview of stories and people who were being discussed, making sure that the audience had appropriate background information, because in addition to Coast regular listeners, there were a lot of Tom DeLonge fans listening to the show for the first time. He appeared on the show. When he appeared on the show, that appearance illustrated how well-read he is on the subject and just how serious he is about researching UFOs. DeLonge, in conjunction with his band Angels and Airwaves, recently launched a website, strangetimes.com, that features UFO and other related news not typically reported by mainstream media. The site regularly features stories by Open Minds, by me individually and Alejandro as well, and it's worth a visit. And I wrote a story about Tom DeLonge, about his interest in UFOs last month, and it is going to appear in the February-March 2012 issue of Open Minds magazine that should hit shelves in, later this month.
Yeah, I mean, we're always talking about this, Tom DeLonge and Strange Times, and we're always very excited about his involvement. We both like to wear his shoes, the Macbeth Shoe Company.
That's right. Coincidentally, we both wear Tom DeLonge shoes.
Yeah, he makes vegan shoes, and we're veggies and animal dudes. But what's really cool, I'm happy. Of course, I've been excited because you've been pursuing an interview that hopefully you'll get here soon. But it's great that he was on Coast to Coast, so people start to know that about his interests. Because I think that's important. You know, one of the things, and hopefully it'll be out tomorrow, I wrote a Huffington Post on celebrities and UFOs. Because this year, there have been a lot of celebrities talking about UFOs, and it's kind of like...
Last year,
right. This year hasn't happened as far as I know yet, but...
It'll happen.
Yeah, it'll happen. But I think that makes people more comfortable. You know,
I do too.
School or the life is kind of like high school. And it's like if the cool kids do it, then it's okay for everybody else to do it. And, you know, celebrities are the cool kids. And if they're cool, if it's okay to talk UFOs and UFOs are cool, then everybody's going to think it's cool and do it.
You're exactly right. I think we saw plenty of that in 2011. You're right, with a lot of the celebrities talking about their personal experiences with UFOs and or extraterrestrials, and a lot of it came out because of the flood of UFO-related movies. And during all these press conferences and public appearances talking about the movie, you know, some of the interviewers would jokingly ask the individual actors and actresses, well, have you ever seen a UFO? And it would start the conversation, and they would say, yeah, I certainly have. And they'd say, you're kidding, right? And they'd say, no, not at all. And it would open up that dialogue, and people would go, oh, wow, he's not joking about this. I guess I can say I saw a UFO too, and people won't laugh at me.
Yeah, one of the most fun ones was last March when Aaron Eckhart, the actor for Battle Los Angeles, Jay Leno asked him about UFOs, and he shared his UFO sighting. And he didn't even ask Christy Brinkley, who was the next guest. She just came out, and she was so excited. Oh, my gosh, you guys are talking about UFOs. I've seen UFOs. And she starts going off on her UFO sighting.
Right.
Pretty cool.
And the similar things happened with Sammy Hagar. You know, during that interview, they were interviewing him about his book.
He's really cool.
They talked about one part in the book, and he said, well, that was actually something that really happened.
What's cool about him is he doesn't shy away. He is so brave. He's not like, oh, yeah, that happened. Let's talk about something else. He's like, yeah, man, I talked to UFO. I talked to aliens, and I've seen UFOs. UFOs are awesome. I mean, he's just, boom. He even made fun of himself to this skit on Jimmy Kimmel.
On Kimmel, yeah.
Who is Jimmy Kimmel's little guy? Guillermo.
Yeah.
Guillermo, I think, was the alien in there. So... yeah, he is just really bold and brave to just say, hey, yeah, man, UFOs.
Yep.
I have a video of that actually from your story because Dr. Drew spoke with him about UFOs.
Yeah, that's right.
And I put that on my top 20 stories on the UFOdailynews.com.
But I do agree. I think we're going to see a lot more of that, a lot more people, celebrities and the like, coming forward in 2012 with their personal experiences and opinions on the topic.
Yep. Cool stuff, man.
Yep. Well, in other news, in November, a team of astrobiologists proposed 2 new planetary rating systems that could help widen the search for extraterrestrial life. We certainly talked about these 2 new proposed systems on Open Minds Radio back in November. To refresh your memory, they suggested ranking planets on both an Earth Similarity Index, an ESI, and a broader Planetary Habitability Index, a PHI. And according to the International Business Times, the team of researchers has used their new rating system to develop lists of planets and moons with the highest probability of hosting extraterrestrial life. And on both of these lists, Mars ranked very high. On the ESI, Mars was the 3rd or 4th planet, just below all of the, or many of the Gliese planets. Remember, we talked a lot about Gliese 581g, a planet which many scientists still debate whether it exists or not. But on the PHI, the Planetary Habitability Index, Mars came in 2nd, right beneath the moon Titan. And based on these lists, life on Mars looks pretty favorable. And the year 2011 was filled with Mars discoveries. Recent findings suggest the presence of flowing water on the planet's surface, at least seasonally. Scientists also recently determined that large underground regions on Mars might be habitable. NASA's Curiosity rover, the world's biggest extraterrestrial explorer, will reach the planet in the middle of this year and will search for signs of life. And while life might already exist in the favorable conditions on the red planet, one visionary here on Earth wants to colonize Mars. Elon Musk, co-founder and CEO of SpaceX, who we've talked about many times on this show, recently stated that he, quote, wants to put 10,000 people on Mars, end quote, and that's according to The New Scientist. He reportedly went on to say, quote, ultimately, we don't really want 10,000 people on Mars. We want millions. And he claims he can do it for as little as $2 billion. Earlier this year, Musk announced SpaceX's plan to develop a fully reusable space launch system. He stated, quote, we've not gone beyond Earth's orbit in a generation. I want to change that. Rapid reusability is what will take us to Mars, end quote. The SpaceX launch vehicle that could take humans to Mars is the company's new Falcon Heavy, which is scheduled for testing in 2013. So you can pack your bags, Alejandro, because trip to Mars is right around the corner.
Get your butt to Mars.
Yes, my favorite movie. Not really, but it's a good movie.
It's a funny one, fun one.
Anything with Schwarzenegger's fun.
Yeah.
Well, this is a story that several people wrote on. You wrote a story about this, Alejandro. Ooh. But it's a story about Spaceballs, and not the Mel Brooks movie, but actual balls from space. A mysterious space ball was recently found in Namibia, Africa, that was 3.5 feet in diameter and weighed 13 pounds, and it hit the ground hard enough to create a hole 13 inches deep. The country's National Forensic Science Institute was baffled by the object, and similar objects have been seen in parts of Africa and South America. A pair of similar objects is actually on display in a museum in Argentina. All these mysterious space balls tend to cause a bit of frenzy from people, assuming the objects are some sort of alien vessel. They have been determined to be nothing more than space junk. To be more precise, according to Discovery News, they are composite overwrapped pressure vessels, or COPV, something that stores gases under pressure in a space environment. And these things are used on ships and the space station and various things we send into space. But you wrote a story on this, Alejandro, and Antonio Huneeus, our colleague, wrote a story on this. And a lot of people were writing about the space balls falling from space.
Yeah, and that's what's great about, we had written an article not too long ago on it, or Antonio did, and so we were able to get some, I put quotes in my story from him, and he put his article in there from the magazine, because this is a new occurrence. And this thing looked exactly like what had fallen in many countries, including South America, and what appeared to be tanks from Russian spaceships.
Right. And, yeah, Antonio had something about this in one of the Open Minds magazines.
Yeah.
And I'd actually...
The Roswell one.
The Roswell edition, yeah.
Because it was other kind of UFOs, things that were thought to be UFOs that had crash landed.
Right. And there's one in Mexico City, Jaime Maussan. The Mexican journalist has one of these things, and I got to see one of these in person, and they're strange balls, these weird metal balls that look like they've exploded, and they're very hard. They can't be cut through, so they confuse a lot of people, and certainly look foreign, but at the same time they look very earthly with all sorts of weld marks and.
Right.
But if you've never seen one, you'd definitely think that an alien left his ball behind.
Yeah.
In other space news, scientists suggest soliciting the public's help to search for traces of extraterrestrial life on the moon. The SETI Institute has been searching for signals of extraterrestrial life for more than 50 years, but their search has been rather passive, scanning the skies for alien radio signals. Astrobiologist Paul Davies and research technician Robert Wagner think a more active search is a better method. They recently published a scientific paper online in the journal Acta Astronautica that calls for the search of alien artifacts on the moon. The two Arizona State University scientists suggest that alien life may have, quote, left traces on the moon in the form of an artifact or surface modification of lunar features, according to the Daily Mail. To search for signs of extraterrestrial life on the moon, the scientists suggest focusing attention on images captured by NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, the LRO. According to The Guardian, quote, NASA has made more than 340,000 LRO images public, but that figure is expected to reach 1 million by the time the orbiting probe has mapped the whole lunar surface, end quote. The ASU scientists explain, quote, from these numbers, it is obvious that a manual search by a small team is hopeless, end quote, which is why they suggest calling on, quote, amateur enthusiasts to assist with the process of scanning the LRO images for potential alien artifacts. This isn't the first time that Davies has suggested taking a different approach to searching for extraterrestrial signs. In October 2011, Astrobiology magazine reported how Davies wanted scientists to broaden the search for extraterrestrial life by searching Earth for possible, quote, footprints left behind by extraterrestrial visitors. And Alejandro, I love this quote, so I had to throw it in here, but a recent article in the Huffington Post accurately stated, and I think you and I have said this many times on this show too, but, quote, despite being well studied, Earth's closest neighbor remains an enigma.
Right, yeah, that's what's interesting. And now we have two orbiters or two that have just gotten there in the last couple of days, so we're checking it out some more. I think we're upping our stake on the moon because China's getting there soon too. But one question people have about this story is that it's this a peer-reviewed journal, and it is. This is a scientific journal that this paper has gotten into. It's already been vetted and everything. They've already done everything they do when they make sure it's a credible article with good science, and it is going into the journal. So it's pretty cool to see, scientists talking about, hey, we need to look for ET ruins on the moon.
And I think you're right. I think because of China, we're having a renewed interest in the moon, which is great because we sort of abandoned it for whatever reason.
The moon's cool, man.
I like the moon. Well, Alejandro, I have so many more stories, but I think I better call it quits because we have a wonderful interview that is a little longer than usual. So I will cut it short at that. And this has been your Open Minds News Brief. Remember to check out all of these stories and so many more at openminds.tv, your source for UFO-related news. And you can always follow me on Twitter at Acentric. That's ACECENTRIC. And you can also friend me on Facebook at Jason Open Minds. That is it for the news. I am Jason McClellan, your Open Minds News correspondent, and you have been briefed.